I wrote two ebooks. I actually started working on a third one, but something happened and I lost the original folder that had the third ebook. I have to start all over from scratch. But anyway, um, in one of the ebooks, I talk about how to stay ahead of the game. And in general, it's just a simple concept, but not many people think about it because more people are about the here and now and what's going on right now, and they tend to be followers instead of leaders. So whatever people do right now is what they do right now. They don't think about the future or what could happen and then plan for that. I think about the future. I plan for the future. I think ahead. That's why when Konami does stuff in the game, creates new archetypes, new mechanics, new stuff, none of it's a surprise to me because I expected these things. I wanted these things. I came up with a lot of the ideas for a lot of these things. And, some of this stuff came out a little different than I expected, because, I had an idea of something, but then they created something. I'll give you an example of that is one of my favorite color is black. My secondary favorite color is navy blue. So when synchros, well, I guess I should start off with synchros. All right, let me start from the beginning. All right, before anyone was even using their extra deck, and it used to be called fusion deck, I was already using my fusion deck. I was already, once Magical Scientist was available, I started using that to summon Thousand Eyes Restrict. Then Metamorphosis was available at the same time, so then I used that. And then when Instant Fusion was available, I used that. Cybersteam, I used that. So then I had cards that let me access stuff in my fusion deck. And there was fusions that I could use before we even got Elemental Heroes. All the other fusions we got after that, I was already using my fusion deck. And there was no limit, there was no 15 card limit in a fusion deck. You can have as many cards in fusion deck as you wanted. It got to a point where they did make a max, and it was 30, and then eventually it became 15. But it was always, unlimited. But so you go from fusions, I was already using it, but that was something that already existed. But then I was like, when they did heroes, that was awesome. I was like, ooh, yeah, heroes, that's pretty cool. And then they created contact fusion, with the Neospatians and Neos in the GX series. It's like, well, that's a pretty cool idea. If you have the monsters on the field, you can, put them back in the deck in order to summon something from your fusion deck. So you don't have to use Metamorphosis, Magical Scientist, Cybersteam to summon from your extra deck. Fusion deck. So that was pretty badass. So it's like, okay, that'd be cool if they create something a little more generic, something that I could use with what I already have in my deck. Then they created synchros, a way you can summon from your extra deck, big strong monster with a couple little weak monsters, right? One being a tuner, one being a non-tuner. That was a great concept. I never thought of the tuner aspect, but having two monsters on the field that that equal the level of a monster and summon it. Well, that's essentially what I wanted. I wanted the ability to, because I'm so used to like Metamorphosis, and Metamorphosis, you tribute a monster inside the field, you play the spell card, and then you summon a monster from your extra deck, from your fusion deck, that's the same level. So I'm used to the whole idea of offering like a level 7 to get a level 7. So the idea of using a 4-star and a 3-star to make a 7 is like, oh yeah, I like that idea. Plus, Ritual Summon was similar. If you think about it, I always thought it was. I always didn't like the idea that rituals were in the main deck. They should have to me, they should have been an extra deck, right? That way, when you have the spell card, you have the tributes, you play a spell card, you offer the tributes, and then from your extra deck, you can choose any monster from your extra deck that you can summon. So it was weird that you had to have the ritual monster in your hand plus the tributes and then the spell. That didn't sound right. And theme-wise, you know, that's not how a ritual would be. You know, like you cast a spell, it wouldn't be that way, right? Where the idea is you're summoning something, from something else, from somewhere else, not straight from your hand, from the same place where the sacrifices are being done from, right? So things like that seem weird. It seemed weird that you couldn't one ritual from the main deck where you couldn't just play the spell card off of this the monsters for the spell cards ability, and then summon from the deck the ritual monster. You had to have it in your hand. So that was just bad design in my opinion. It would have been better in the extra deck, in the fusion deck area. But they did whatever they wanted. It was interesting. I was just used to the idea of the what you're attributing or what you're sacrificing will equal what you're getting. So then synchro summoning was just a logical upgrade. It's like awesome, another way to summon from my fusion deck without a spell card, a card effect. I can summon as a mechanic, right? So then back to the whole, like the color black. When singles was a thing, I was like, man, it'd be cool if they made some black border, some black, cards that go in your extra deck, but don't require tuners because you gotta play tuners for synchros. Like, man, it'd be nice to have something you don't need tuners for, because tuners is still a little specific, similar to playing polymerization, which is very specific to fusion summon, right? So it's like, I want something a little bit more generic, a little more universal. Then they created Exceed monsters, like, oh, perfect, black cards, yay, right? The way they did it was like, oh, okay, I'm familiar with this mechanic, putting a monster on top of another monster, and then this monster is trying to summon, get someone on top of it, because I used to play Duel Masters, and Duel Masters, they had something like that. What was it called? The Evolution? Cross Gear? Well, there was Cross Gear, but I think it was Evolution, where, you have a monster already on the field, and then you summon another monster on top of it. So I'm already used to putting a monster on top of another monster, stacking cards on top of each other from that game. So when they made Exceed monsters, I already understood how it worked. A lot of people were still confused on how you Exceed summon, because they're used to synchro summon where you send the monsters for graveyard. Fusion summon, you send monsters for graveyard. Ritual summon, you send monsters for graveyard. So since they're so conditioned with that idea, to them it was weird to put a card on top of a card, then put another card on top of it. I thought that was weird. It's like, that's not weird. It's pretty cool. So I was already used to it. So it worked out great for me. And it was kind of cool. The idea, the simple concept was, you just need monsters of the same level, and then there you go, and that's it. It's like, well, that works pretty well. I have a lot of monsters in my deck of similar levels, so that works. Then, so we got the Exceeds. I always, when they created trap monsters, I was thinking like, all right, well, spell monsters will be like the next evolution. Then pendulum became a thing, right? So it's like, okay, there you go. Something, a monster slash spell, a spell slash monster. So that's pretty cool. Let me see. What's the other mechanic? Link summoning. I definitely didn't think of no link summoning. That is new to me. I understood it. It was simple, to understand how it works. It's like, okay, roughly generic summonings. So I'm a fan of what they are, but the arrows and stuff, all that extra stuff was an issue. Oh, another thing about pendulum summons, when pendulums were first announced, I expected them to go into spawn traps, and then they made zones for them. And it's like, no, that's just retarded. Now you're messing up the map design. Now you have to push things around, and a lot of times people do without a map. So the positioning of where you put cards now is going to be wrong, because now you gotta do the pendulum thing. It's like, no, the pendulum monsters should go in spells and traps area. Now they finally did that in order to make space for the extra monster zone, so they can, do the summoning from the extra deck thing, which was an interesting idea. Interesting enough, I always thought of them adding an extra monster zone. So ironically, there's an extra monster zone, but that's not here nor there. Anybody would have wanted an extra monster zone, but yeah, it was just interesting. The idea is like, okay, these new things came out, and I was already like thinking of like these types of stuff that could exist. Like this could do this could do that. Me and my friends talking about an idea of red cards, and the way they will work is that they're like evolved versions of like specific monsters, like classic stuff like Blue Eyes, Dark Magician. So once you have Dark Magician on the field, you can summon these monsters from your extra deck. We had a couple different names. One of them was like Ace. It could be an Ace monster, just like the expression, summoning my Ace monster. So you have Dark Magician on the field, and then you can summon his Ace version. So you can summon like Dark Magician Ace or something like that. However way we word it. And then, he'll actually have effects and abilities, something that Dark Magician normally doesn't have. So part of the idea was this was more for normal monsters, especially some classic ones that can get retrained, as it were. That's like the term for it, retrain. They actually have effects now and stuff like that when they used to not have effects. And, this was a way to, make Dark Magician, Blue Eyes, things of that nature, some ago, more popular, in the sense of like, hey, those who like these cards, will love the idea of having something that makes them better so they can play them, because who doesn't like what they like, you know what I mean? I'm a fan of Dark Magician, so I would love Dark Magician's War, obviously. And I got that in spades, you know what I mean? Konami keeps supporting Dark Magician Blue Eyes, so I've gotten some new good stuff. I'm also a fan of Red Eye, so got some Red Eye support, so I'm a fan of that. And Red Eyes keep getting some zombie related stuff, which is a little ironic, considering the fact that I did used to, really like playing zombies. So it's ironic that Red Eye Zombies, two things that I like, just to mix together, and then you have Red Eye Zombie Dragons. So that was pretty cool. Ironically, I created a Lava Golem deck based off of the concept of Lava Golem. Tribute opponent's monsters to summon a monster. And then Konami created Kaiju. So I'm like, interesting. There's a lot of similarities to the Kaiju archetype to my Lava Golem archetype. So that's interesting. And then I had a fantasy Yu-Gi-Oh deck that I designed. There was Zoids based off of an anime that I used to watch back in the day. And the idea was that you have, pilots, right? You have the main deck monsters, and you have in your extra deck you have their Zoids, their mech vehicles, which were like animal-like, like a liger and a raptor and elephant, whatever, right? So I would have their pilots, in the main deck, and you summon them, and then you can take special summon from the extra deck, and I used the Exceed design that you can either use 2 level 3s to make one of these monsters. There were like level 3s and 4s, so that's I think maybe there was a 5, but mainly level 3s and 4s. Rank 3s, rank 4s is what I was mainly focusing on. And some of them had where you need 3 level 4s or 2 level 4s or 2 level 3s, you know what I mean? Basic stuff, so which is generic, so they can be summoned in any deck. But they had the condition where you can special summon them if you have the specific pilot. If you have, like, for example, Big Cloud, he pilots the Liger, so, Liger Zero, so if he's on the field, you can summon Liger Zero, special summon on top of him, as XYZ material, with just one material, and it's treated as a, Exceed summon, even though you only use one material. some of my friends at the time was like, "Oh, that's not how Exceed Summon works. You need two monsters of the same level, blah blah blah." I was like, "Yeah, but this is an effect that allows me to special summon it with if I have one if I have the one specific material, and then it's treated as a Exceed Summon. So suck it, you know what I mean, right? It's like it works, you know what I mean? The if M7 Ptolemaeus M7 Constellar, right? Constellar Ptolemaeus M7 can summon itself on top of a Constellar XYZ monster, Exceed monster, you know, with an effect. I can do it, you know what I mean? It's not like the idea was too revolutionary or new, and, obviously I got the inspiration from rank up monsters where, you can rank them up. Well, did I come up with this idea before they did rank up? Hmm. Okay. No, I think rank up was, was before, right? But anyway, I'm having trouble remembering the timeline. But it was just the fact that it's like, this idea was inspired by something. Something inspired this idea. Either I came up with the idea before it was a thing, or, you know, it was a direct inspiration. But, obviously, yeah, Exceed Monsters was not my initial, you know, well, well, it was, I wanted black cards that go in the extra deck and then made them. So, but the summoning with one material thing was inspired by something. Either it was M7 that inspired it, like and Gaia Charge and stuff like that, or more likely that's what happened. They inspired the idea. I think they existed before rank up, and then my friends complained, "Oh, that's not how they'll never use," because it was the whole idea that my friends told me like they will never, you can never use an exceed monster to rank up. That was one of, well, that was before we got Gaia Charge and stuff like that. And M7, that's what it was. Before Gaia Charge and M7, you you had to use, monsters in the main deck. They have levels to make an exceed monster. You can't use an exceed monster to summon an exceed monster, right? And yeah, then I came up with the idea that you can, you can do it. You can exceed with an exceed. That wasn't a discussion. That wasn't like I didn't make no cards that can do that. You know, go an exceed on top of an exceed. Initially, it was just stating that you know Konami could do whatever they want. They can do that. Um, but then they didn't. That's how you got the Constellar and stuff like that. And rank up magic is like, see, you can't use an exceed monster, a rank, exceed monster to summon an exceed monster. You know what I mean? So it's like Konami can do whatever they want, and that just proved my point that they could. So we should be open minded to newer creative ideas, not assume that, oh no, this doesn't make sense. Konami will never do this because it like breaks their rules. It was that weird idea that my friend always did, like the whole like it breaks the rules. They're breaking their own rules. It's like, no, it's not. They make the rules so they can't really be breaking their own rules. They make the rules. So the rules should always be obvious. It's like they can do whatever they want as long as it makes the game different every year, which is what makes it interesting and fun every year. They gotta do stuff that you think is breaking the rules, like, oh no, something from you know, your extra deck you know, with one monster. It's too strong. And it's like, well, it is different. It's a way of playing. Remember Zodiacs. So of course we get eventually to the point of like, yeah, Zodiacs. He's summoning an exceed monster on top of another exceed monster on top of another exceed, and you start off with what? One material. So I've been had that idea with the Zoids. I was already using one material. Because what's interesting, I forgot to mention, is that you use Big Cloud to summon Liger Zero, but Liger Zero has upgrades. Upgraded version has Jaeger and Panzer mode, and in order to summon them, you would require, to do the special summoning ability, you would require Liger Zero in order to summon either one of them. So, depending on which version you need, if you need Liger to upgrade into his Jaeger mode, or you need him to upgrade to his Panzer mode, and there was like another mode, but I forgot what the other mode was. It's like orange, because Jaeger is blue mode, and Panzer is his green mode, and then there was an orange mode that I had trouble remembering. But he had all these modes, and he can change. He can always upgrade and change his abilities. So he had a monster that can have different effects at any given time in a duel. So, ironically enough, it's not that different from, Zodiacs now. Zodiacs is like you start off with a Zodiac monster, then you can summon a Zodiac Exceed on top of him, then you can summon another Zodiac Exceed on top of that Zodiac Exceed, and just keep stacking up. Now, the difference is that the materials under them give extra, power and effects to the top material. I didn't do that. That's their idea. But I did have the whole, well, I summon something on top of something, and the new something has an ability. So, simple, right? But it's just the idea that I was doing a lot of stuff like that before Konami did. So that's why when Zodiacs was a thing, it's like, oh, that's cool. I'm familiar with that, obviously, because I created a deck that does that. Ironically enough, I still have that deck. I have it all proxied out and stuff like that to play with. So it's like, yeah, I have. I'm familiar with something like that. I have something like that. And then of course with the Lava Golem deck, then they made kaiju. So obviously I'm a fan of kaijus and stuff. Like, hey, awesome. They actually did make a Lava Golem, like Lava Golem King, I think it was called, or Emperor or something like that. Where my opponent, has a Lava Golem monster, I can special summon this, monster to my side field, and it gains power equal to the power of all lava monsters on the field, or some stuff like that. So that was pretty cool. So that idea of having a specific monster on my opponent's side field that I summon there, and then summon them special summon monster on my side field because they control a certain monster of my archetype. It's like, kaijus do that. Interesting. So it's just, the parallels. Either Konami, pay attention to my stuff and, they get inspired from some of my ideas, or not. Interesting enough, I made an archetype called Outzectors, where it's the opposite of Inzectors, right? Because I was doing some wordplay. Inzectors, Outzectors. Inzectors tend to, have effects on the field. The materials go to graveyard to get their abilities. But the idea of Outzectors is that you get effects from them being banished. When they get banished, you get effects. So the interesting thing of getting effects while stuff is banished, and then Konami slowly started adding stuff into the game where you get effects for stuff being banished, like Giant Rex, and then other things of that nature. Even Metaphys and now the new Thunder deck, so they have effects from they activate when they go out of play. So it's like, oh, interesting. Not surprised. It's just a matter of time, right? Just like having cards that work in the graveyard, like spells and traps. Being able to be played in the graveyard. I'm definitely a graveyard style player. So I definitely like the idea of I always saw my graveyard as an extension of my hand. So that's how I always played. It's an extension of my hand. So whatever's in the graveyard, I do expect to use again later. Especially if I play a card and discard like a monster, like Grapha or something. Let's say I'm playing Dark Horse and I have Lightning Vortex. Alright, discard Grapha, use Lightning Vortex effect, destroy all my opponent's monsters, right? Then summon a Dark Horse monster, bounces my hand, bring back Grapha, right? It's an extension of my hand. I don't see it as a place where I'm negging. I don't see my graveyard as a neg. I see it as a plus. I see it as an extension of my hand, a place where I'm holding extra cards that I can use, just like my extra deck. It's an extension of my main deck, and vice versa. My main deck is an extension of my extra deck. Because sometimes my extra deck could potentially affect my main deck. Something like Dante, and then use Dante to mill my main deck. My extra deck can affect my main deck and vice versa. So all these, are connected. My hand, field, my hand, extra deck, all that stuff, right? So these are the way I think, forward thinking beyond what is currently available. And sometimes I notice something, like I notice there's a certain card that Konami created. It's like, why did they create this card? Why does this card exist? Like, it has a decent effect, but there's nothing currently out that exists in the current card pool that typically would use something like this. When would this effect be useful? Especially when they do stuff like archetypes, like Dustins. They came out with Dustins. You got like 2 Dustins, long time ago, and then it's like, okay, what are these supposed to do? There's only 2. Where's the rest? And then slowly we started getting 2 more and 2 more. You know what I mean? We slowly started getting stuff. It's like, okay, this is slowly supposed to build up to something, but what is it building up to? And interesting enough, I never really truly built up into anything. Interesting enough, once we got blue Dustin and white Dustin, I think it was blue or yellow, one or two. Anyway, once we had enough Dustins that we can play Goblin King, 1-for-1 combo, House Dustin, all that stuff, and swarm the field in OTK, then that's when I did the Goblin King Dustin OTK, and I created the OTK. Because I was like, okay, I have enough Dustins that when I use House Dustin, I can swarm the field. I could put 4 Dustins on my side field and 4 on my opponent. So I was like, okay, that's cool and all, but what's the purpose? And then when you look at their individual effects, and then the white Dustin was a Valina, it was a normal monster, it had no abilities. So it's like, why would you make one that's normal? That's odd. Interesting enough, it had no restrictions. It didn't have like the ones who did have effects. You couldn't tribute them or exceed with them or sync with them, all that nonsense, right? So I was like, what am I supposed to do with them? And then they have 0 attacks. It's like, okay, they have 0 attacks and they have some interesting effects, but what's the point? But then I noticed that they're fiends. I'm like, wait a minute, interesting. They're fiends. Isn't there a monster that gets powered up for fiends? I went and looked up, typed up on Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro, you know, you know, um, Fiend, 1 star, 1,000 or some shit like that, and then boom, I saw Goblin King. Like, oh yeah, Goblin King, that's what he's called. That's the monster I was thinking of. Oh yeah, he gets 1,000 for every monster. I thought it was only on my side field. It's for every fiend on the field. Awesome. And then I started doing the math. Like, oh shit, it'll be 8,000. And then I attack red Dustin while it's in attack mode. He'll take 500 extra, so that's 8,500. More than enough to OTK my opponent's like, okay, so then how am I going to get that to work? And then, I think of like, oh, they're 1 star, so obviously 1-for-1. Even something like double summon, so I can summon, House Dustin and Goblin King, and then attack with House Dustin to my opponent's monster. My opponent needs to have at least 1 monster for this to work, right? Attack, House Dustin dies. Put 4 on his side field, 4 Dustin on my side field, and now Goblin King will be 8,000. Attack red Dustin, and my opponent takes 8,500 damage. And it's like, okay, awesome. I got an OTK. I can OTK with Dustin. That's pretty cool. I'm still waiting to see what the art side was supposed to be about, but for now, hey, I got an OTK. And that's all that really matters. That, because an OTK is a win condition. So now I have a win condition for Dustin. So I put out the deck and this, that, and third, and it caught on. A couple people started, doing the Goblin King OTK with Dustin's, and then that's it. But it was pretty cool. It's like I still expected to see something to happen. Interesting enough, I was expecting, what was it, Star Dustin? Essentially, it's like the Black Dustin of the archetype. But what its name is exactly, but once I think it is Star Dustin, like Stardust Dustin or something like that. And it was like big disappointment. Because ironically, he kind of does what Goblin King does. Like, he was getting 1,000 for Dustins, but it, if I might, it only got powered up for the ones attributed to myself or something. The conditions wasn't better than Goblin King. Goblin King was the best choice. But it's just like, but Goblin King ain't a Dustin though. Why can't I have a Dustin that has the same effect as Goblin King? Right? So we got this half-ass version of a Dustin version of Goblin King. It's like, oh, this is not good. Like, he was alright. He had potential, but he wasn't that great. He gets weak too easy. That's the thing. He gets weak too easy. And it's like, nah, I don't like this, Dustin. I'll stick to Goblin King. Goblin King does what I needed to do, which is win. So that's the thing about being ahead of the game is it's paying attention to something, and holding on to stuff. Because I did held on to those Dustins that I was slowly collecting, and then I did held on to the Goblin Kings. It just took a while before I came up with the idea of combining them, but I did already have the Goblin Kings just because it was always a good card, and it's like, okay, someday this card will be good. That's why when I noticed, it's like, wait, the Dustins are fiends, and I can get a lot of them on the field in one turn. Don't I have a monster that gets powered up for that? And then that's where the Goblin King came in. Like, yeah, Goblin King. Thank God I held on to him, and put it all together. It's like, I knew he would be worth something eventually. He'll be playable. And then Stingy and Sturge, something like that. The 1-star, Stingy and, I'm thinking of Street Patrol. It's not Street. I think it's Stingy and Sturge. No, Stingy and Sturge. If I that, no, that's the trap card. What is the 1-star? Stingy and Patrol? Stingy and Street Patrol? Is it? I don't have to remember. I know Stingy and something. That's the low 1-star. And the funny thing is, it kind of looks like a Dustin. So it's like, oh, this is awesome because, this Dazzle's Law battle. I can bring a House Dustin with it, or I can bring a Goblin King. So it was a nice little float monster that can help the combo. So it's almost like having, the idea is like that monster is like having 3 extra copies of Goblin King or 3 extra copies of House Dustin. That's the way I looked at it. It's like having 3 extra copies, so it added to the consistency. So 3 Goblin King, 3 House Dustins, and 3 Stygian Patrol. I think it was called Stygian Patrol. Right there you have 9 monsters that will help you, with the consistency of the strategy plus the 1-for-1, and then just the Dustins in general in the deck, and then you got those strategies. But it's important to try to stay, focus on what could be possible. And then when you look at a card, it's like, okay, this card does something. Your opponent discards their whole entire hand, and then they draw 5 cards. And the name of the card is present card. There's actually a card that does that. And it's like, okay, what's the point of this card? This is not something you normally would do. If your opponent has 1 card, I don't want to activate this, make them discard 1 card, and then give them 5 cards. That's a bad idea. I just negged 1 and my opponent plus 5. That not many people will like that. I wouldn't have a problem with it, especially if I have a strategy and I'm taking advantage of that. So it's like, I wouldn't want to give somebody a whole bunch of cards. I don't want to draw 5. I don't want to give my opponent 5, right? So then, but it's like, but maybe I do want to let my opponent draw 5. So what can I use this for? Now with card destruction and Morphin Jar number 1 back in the game, you can play this in empty jar, right? So there you go. A use for this card. You can play an empty jar. But the initial thing is that this card can be used with trick stars, because you can play this and reincarnation and make them discard their hand, draw a new hand, then banish their hand, draw a new hand, and they're taking a lot of damage for the field trick stars light stage effect, and the light persists, and you're just there burning them. So this trap card is like an extra reincarnation. So it's like having 6 reincarnation. If you put disturbance strategy in there, it's like having 9 reincarnation. So imagine having 5 traps. Like 2 reincarnations, 2 present cards, and one disturbance strategy, right? And then you just chain them and then just bang, 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 bang. You just, obliterate your opponent's life points just by doing it. So that's why it's good to have three, cards that have similar effects, because then you can fill up your deck with a lot of cards that do the same thing. So the likelihood of you consistently doing something is higher, especially when you need multiple copies of a card to get the most out of it. So that's pretty cool. So that's the idea of being ahead of the game. It's like, okay, Konami created this card for a reason. Maybe in the next couple of sets, this card's going to have some type of use. It will eventually matter. Now there are the rare occasions where a lot of times Konami comes out with fillers. They come out with stuff that ain't really gonna be playable later. It just takes up space. But sometimes you never know. They created the Ascended the Ascended of Thunder, 7-star. It's a retrain of the Immortal Thunder, and it's a 7-star. You get special summon by paying 3,000 life points. If it gets destroyed by battle card effect, you gain 5,000. So that's pretty decent. So basically, it's a plus 2,000 if you summon in your opponent Trenchels or Bombuses or something. Then you just essentially gain the 3,000 you already lost, and then the extra 2,000 on top of that. So you can go from 8,000 life points down to 5,000 life points, and then shoot up to 10,000 just because your opponent destroyed it. Plus, you can also summon, right? When you summon, you can attack your opponent's monster with it, let it die by battle against your opponent's monster, and then gain the 5,000. So you essentially, turn your 8,000 life points into 10,000. You know what I mean? It's just an interesting thing. So it's a nice little card. And the fact that you can always do stuff like Monster Reborn, call haunted it, and it dies, and you will again gain another 5,000. It's just too good. Like, really, a monster when it's destroyed by battle card effect, you gain 5,000. That is just amazing. So I've definitely bought a whole bunch of them, and that's again being ahead of the game, right? But also, what's useful about it is that you pay 2,000 special summon. My friend had an idea for a 5-star monster. We paid 2,000 special summon from the hand or the graveyard. So it's just a way to guarantee he always has a monster he can tribute. So that was a pretty decent idea, and this just so happens to be similar. It doesn't summon from the graveyard, but it's similar enough. But just the idea that you could pay 3,000 to summon a 7-star 2,700, it's not bad, especially if you have all three in your hand. And for some reason, let's say you have 10,000 life points. For 9,000, you can summon all three and OTK your opponent, because 3,700 is over 8,000. So he definitely has a lot of use. The ability to sacrifice life points to gain field advantage and then just OTK your opponent, right? But another thing is, he's 7-stars, rank 7. You can use him for link material, as link material. You can use him to synchro summon with. He has a lot of uses. He's a thunder type. He's light. Those could be relevant under the right conditions. But that's the whole idea of being like the thought process of being ahead of the game. Is the idea of thinking like, oh yeah, this could be useful in a certain way. Just like fusions, I held on to a lot of fusions, and then of course, I had access to instant fusion. But then it's like, well, when would I ever need a 5-star Earth Machine monster fusion called Cybersource? When would I ever need that? I can summon with instant fusion, yeah, that's cool. But when would I ever need that specific, thing that it's an Earth, that it's the 5-star, that's the machine? When would any of those things come in handy? And then suddenly we have Nova and Infinity, and it's like, oh, okay. Well, him being a 5-star machine, I can summon instant fusion. That matters. Cyber Dragon, instant fusion, Nova, Infinity, yay! So that's why, it's important to keep an eye on stuff like that. Like, these fusions came out like 10 years ago, and now they're useful now. 10 years later, they're useful, right? It took a long time for them to be useful, but they became useful eventually. So it's good that I held on to them for all these years. Same thing as like a 5-star, Earth Dinosaur, fusion. You can summon instant fusion. That has some relevancy. Thousand Eyes Restrict, 1 star. You know, fusion that I can summon instant fusion. Now you can make Link Creeble with it. See, yay! Took about 10 to 15 years for Thousand Eyes Restrict to have more uses other than just you know summoning it, absorbing something, then use it as tribute or you know central material or exceed material. Now we can use it for link material. So as as other uses. So that's always good. And that's the thing I always think about. My mindset is always on that idea of like the future. There's always going to be something new coming out, and you should always be prepared for it. That way, it's not a surprise. That way, it's not like, oh my god, Pendulum Summon, that's a surprise. Oh, Link Summon, that's a surprise. It shouldn't be a surprise. You should always expect Konami to do something new and different. I notice a lot that a lot of the stuff that Konami's coming out with, besides a lot of it being similar to a lot of my, um, old ideas, is also the fact that a lot of it looks a lot of fantasy based, almost as if a player is coming up with these ideas. They're coming up with stuff like Dragon Wars and things of that nature, and they're just Gokis and stuff like that. They're deliberately creating really really good stuff. And then of course Konami, business wise, is gonna sprinkle that good stuff with a lot of not so good stuff. A lot of fillers, a lot of trash, a lot of reprints, right? You know, to make it to try to hide the fact that they're deliberately creating overpowered, broken, OP, or whatever expression you want to use types of cards. They're deliberately making these really, 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 really good stuff, which I'm okay with. It's part of why I love the game is that I want good stuff. I want strong cards and strong effects and strategies. I want things to be different. Because I like a challenge. I don't want to keep you know setting a 2000 defense. My opponent summons a level 4 1800 attacks. My monster flips up. Oh, you take 200 because I have 2000 defense. Alright, my turn. Draw. Tribute. Summon skull. Or Jinzo or something. Like, that's the way we used to play. It's cute at the beginning, but, it's been over 10 years that I've been playing this game, and I would hate to still be doing that same thing. Setting a giant soldier stone, setting a couple, wobble or a trap hole, end my turn. My opponent, summons their Lajin or Battle Ox, not Battle Ox, Voice Raider, and then attacks my giant soldier stone, flips up, they take damage. It's like, that's the way it used to be, but it's like, it'd be boring if we just kept playing that same exact way. It has to be changed. You know what I mean? Now, I can summon a whole bunch of monsters when I go first. The thing about the game was you just normal summon, that's it. Special summon was special. It was very rare. You know what I mean? You normal summon, or you set some back row, maybe play a field spell, or Swords of Reveal or something, and end of your turn. That's how it used to be. It's been over 10 years. I expect something new. I would hate to still be doing that old stuff, that old basic stuff. Everything's supposed to be new and improved and be more challenging. That's why I hate that a lot of new players cry and complain about things being good. Oh, this card is broken. Look what it does. Oh, this deck is too strong. It needs to get hit by the ban list. Blah blah blah. It's like no, it doesn't. It doesn't need to get hit by the ban list at all. What it needs to happen is that you need to get good. And the way you get good is that you actually understand how the game works and understand that your opponent has a strategy. You have to figure out, you have to understand and learn and memorize that strategy. Then you got to beat that strategy by coming up with ways that your deck can beat that strategy. Sometimes the way you beat a certain strategy is by making sure your strategy, that that you make sure your strategy I'm having trouble saying it. You need to get to your strategy before your opponent. That's what I'm trying to get to. Is, if your opponent has a way to you lock you, well, you need to you lock them before they can do it to you, type of stuff. You know, or you don't have to do the same thing. You could just do something that makes it where they can't you lock at all. If you go first, also Diana, you know, set some back row, your opponent goes, and whatever they do, you respond to it. Oh, you summon a monster. Oh, I played this trap to destroy that monster. Things of that nature. Oh, you activate an effect. I play this card to negate that effect. So on and so forth. You play the game. You figure out the strengths of these popular decks like Goki, Sky Striker, whatever, right? Is currently popular, and then figure out what is their weaknesses, what they lose to, what strategies they lose to, and then play cards that beat them, and there you go. And if all else fails, Kaiju. Kaiju, Lava Gun, all these things are going to be relevant. All these things, that's the irony, that there are good, cheap stuff you can use to beat a lot of these meta decks. You can Kaiju, Lava Golem, Volcanic Queen, Lightning Vortex, Dark Hole Regeki. As a budget player, or as a rogue player, or anti-meta, or even as a casual player, or even as a competitive player, all y'all have the same ability, right? Y'all have the ability to use common cards to win. Here's a little thing that not a lot of people know, but should know. The most important cards in this game are commons, not the hollows, not the secrets, not the ultras, not the ghost rares, none of those. Those aren't the best cards in the game, right? They're good cards. I'm not saying they're not good. They're just not the best cards in the game. The best cards in games are the cards you can get. Obviously, right? The cards you can get, and you can get multiples of, and they're easier to get, so you can build multiple decks, multiple strategies, have multiple experience, multiple fun. Who wants to keep playing the same boring deck over again? Not many people. People get bored off of playing a certain deck. So that's why it makes no sense to spend $700 on a deck you're only going to play for one weekend or one event, or for like 2-3 months, and then get rid of it and just get another deck. It's like, well, that's a waste of money. For all that, you're better off just buying structure decks and just playing there, or just buying a whole bunch of bulk commons and build decks. Because that's the thing. One, a lot of cards get reprinted eventually as commons. So that way, for what? So that way everybody has access to them. Duh. So that way you can play whatever you want to play. But all in all, when you buy packs and booster boxes and stuff like that, you get a lot of commons. And those commons are meant for you to use to build strategies, to build decks. And then you tech out those decks with, the hollows, the secrets and the ultras, the cards that are hard to get. And that's the way the game is supposed to be played. You're supposed to play with commons and build a whole bunch of different decks with commons, and then tech them out with the hollows. But everybody has this weird mindset that it's the opposite. Your deck's supposed to be all hollow, and maybe you'll tech in some commons, or you just don't play commons at all, just everything hollow. It's like, no, that's not how you play. You want to play that way, that's on you, but don't think that's how you play, and don't try to tell everybody else that's how you play. Like, that's how the game's supposed to be played. Like, everybody, play just shiny cards, and everybody in that deck, don't think for yourself. Do whatever somebody else already did. Like, no, that's terrible. I see that a lot on the internet. Other YouTubers be doing that, just be saying like, yeah, man, this, if you're not playing meta, you're never gonna win at Yu-Gi-Oh or some dumb shit like that. It's like, what? That's not how it works. Yeah, if you're not playing meta, you might as well not even play this game anymore. Like, no, that's not how it works. No, you play whatever you want. All Yu-Gi-Oh cards are good in some shape, way, or form. Let's not go with this whole, oh, you gotta play meta, as in you gotta play the expensive stuff, the popular stuff in order to be playing this game. It's like, no, you can play whatever you want. And as long as you're really good at the game, and the cards you chose are really good, even if they're commons, as long as they're really good, you'll win. Sound Strike is a really good trap card, but so is Recall. I use Recall. It's cheaper in many ways. Cheaper in cost to obtain it. There's a whole bunch of it available, so the cost of it is relatively low. Strike got cheaper, but Recall is still cheaper than Strike. It does what I want it to do, which is to negate the effect of a monster and destroy it. So that's the part that matters to me. So I'll use Recall. Would I like to have strikes? Yeah, once they're common, which means hopefully they'll be like 50 cents a copy, and then scoop up a whole bunch and start playing with them again. Because like when I do build decks on average, I do play strikes, but then I started playing Grand Horn and then Recall. So now I play Recall. So it's like I've been changing, evolving, adapting, which is why I use Recall. Strike is good, but I don't want to lose life points, especially now with the what is it called, the end of time rules and stuff. So competitively, I don't want to play Strike. Casually, I'll play Strike all day, but competitively, I don't want to play Strike. I'd rather play Recall. I don't care if my opponent draws a card from the trap card's ability, as long as I win and I stop what they were trying to do. Like if they summon Exciton and try to break my board, I'd rather let them draw a card in order to stop Exciton from breaking my board. Because as long as I still have board presence, that extra card they draw will be irrelevant. Because that card they drew more likely won't be able to break my board. So unless it's evenly matched, then they got that. But you get the idea. It's like being ahead of the game is very important. You always want to make sure that you're not just doing what is popular. You're not just like, oh, this card has a really good effect and everybody's using it, therefore that means I have to use it. Everybody's using, hand traps, so I have to use those hand traps too. It's like, no, you don't. You can use cards that negate those hand traps, that counters those hand traps. Or you can use other types of hand traps that have, that are more cost effective. Now, if you can afford, the more expensive cards in the game, and you want to do that, go ahead. No one's saying you can't do what you want. What I'm definitely trying to say is, if you can't afford the more expensive cards, don't think that you have to have those expensive cards and then just complain that this game is unfair, it's unbalanced, blah blah blah, because I don't have money for the expensive cards and la la la. It's like, no, that's not how it works. If you don't have money for the expensive cards, you don't have money for the expensive cards. That means you don't get to play and enjoy, these cool little effects of these more expensive cards. But there are cheaper cards that have really good effects that you can use. You can actually play a strategy where those cards don't even matter. Why care about your opponent playing Ash Blossom and Ghost Ogre or whatever, right? That's like, oh my god, they're playing these hand traps. I won't be able to win against them when they have those hand traps. Like, that's only true if you're playing a strategy that those cards are good against. But if you're playing a strategy that those cards are useless against, where your opponent will have to side them out because they're useless against your deck, then you did good. I even did a thing where I made a post on Facebook about using exchange, the spell card exchange, because that'll let you, take a card from your opponent's hand and add it to your hand, and then they take another card in your hand and add it to their hand. So this is a way you can get a good hand trap, like Ghost Ogre or Ash Blossom or something like that, from your opponent's hand, and now you have the hand trap. So the ability for you to take your opponent's hand trap in a duel, and then when they do something, you can use it against them. It's awesome, right? And exchange comes common and is cheap. It's way cheaper. Exchange is way cheaper than the hand trap. Also, so is Drag Down to the Grave, where you play the card. You reveal your hand to your opponent. Your opponent chooses a card in your hand to discard. You look at their hand. You're obviously going to choose their expensive hand trap to discard to graveyard, and then both you and your opponent draw a card. Yay, you got rid of an expensive hand trap. Now you don't have to worry about it. So now it's not a problem. Your opponent paid what, $80 for something that's not gonna do nothing against you because you had a way to get rid of it. You know. And after I posted that, a lot of people started doing stuff like Aqua Dolphin and drag down and exchange. Definitely exchange. Because Gabe won the World Qualifier 2018 playing Gokis, and he used uh, exchange. Was it exchange? No, it wasn't exchange. Right? Give me a second. I'm having trouble remembering. No, yeah, it wasn't. It wasn't exchange. It was drag down to grave. He used drag down to grave specifically. Um, I did make a suggestion of using exchange for a for taking your opponent's hand trap seized against it. But drag down to the grave was to get rid of the hand trap because drag down to a grave um, will allow you to get rid of even something like impermanence. Which, interesting enough, when he played drag down to the grave, he was able to discard his opponent's impermanence, and that's what allowed him to, you know, make his plays go off, and he won. So drag down to grave was MVP. But you get the idea, because I did make a post about, drag down the grave and go keys, is the hand trap hate for go keys. Drag down to the grave is the hand trap hate for go keys. That's like, I think, how I worded the post. And somebody must have told him, or he must have saw my post and, you know, used the idea. And that was pretty cool to see one of my many ideas, play out. I had the idea of putting three reasonings in the monarch structure deck when the monarch structure came out, so they can compete with the pendulum decks, because pendulums was, the new thing, and it was very fast. Made the games, it was very explosive, right? It was very fast. So monarchs were bricky and slow. A lot of people call them, you know, um, you know, kept making fun of the monarch decks, saying they brick, refer to them as bricks. You can build houses with monarch decks because they're bricks. They brick a lot. And then I came up with the idea of brickless monarchs by using reasoning. And a lot of people, agreed with my idea. A lot of people tested it on Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro. It worked out great for them. And then they started actually playing in real life and playing it, in tournaments and topping, and it just kept growing to the point where Konami, eventually hit it. My bad. Ironically, that's one of the things I always wanted to do in this game. Among a lot of things I've done for this game, is I've always wanted to make an obscure card, something that no one cared about, no one saw, the value in the card, and then make it so good that it gets, like banned. I've always wanted to get certain obscure cards banned, like get something like Bait Doll banned or Compulse or something. You know what I mean? Like the idea is whatever I play, I'd be so good with it that other people catch on and be like, oh, that's a really good card. And then eventually Konami would hit it. I remember when I was playing Code Wave, and then eventually Konami hit it. Of course, I was playing Magic Scientist, it got hit. Gravity Binds got hit, then it got unbanned, and Scapegoats. I was playing, then Scapegoats got hit. But like a lot of stuff I played, they got banned and then unbanned eventually. My Chaos of Dragon still banned though. Well, I noticed the time. I think I've been talking for like an hour. Woo! It's gonna be an hour-long video. It's one of my longest videos. Hopefully you learned a lot. Hopefully you just at least got entertained. That's mainly what I'm hoping with this video is that, helps you think about the future. Get to better understand me. That way, when you see that I come up with a combo like, hey, look, these two cards work out good, or this card is a good tech card, people listen. and understand like, oh yeah, he knows what he's doing. You know, he thinks about this game a lot, so he has years of experience playing the game. So, you know, give it a try. That's the thing. It's like, especially with proxying and Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro and Dueling Book and things of that nature. There's ways to try something out before you actually spend any time or invest in it. I hate it when somebody doesn't want to take the time to try an idea. I'm like, hey, this card would be good in a certain deck, like Drag Down to the Grave and Go Keys. This would be really good for this exact reason. It'd be nice if people give it a try, because you never know. You might end up, you know, winning World Qualifier playing Go Keys with Drag Down to a Grave after I suggested to play Drag Down to a Grave and Go Keys. I don't know. That might happen to you. Might, a lot of good things might happen to you if you listen to me. And that'll be the end of the video.